With E3 come and gone, I have to say I'm rather surprised that Todd didn't announce another version of Skyrim for everyone to purchase for like the 5th time. So, to fill the dragon-sized hole inside all of us, I have decided that today's the day we figure out, can you beat Fallout 4 as the Dragonborn? Short answer, no. There is no way for us to actually become the Dragonborn. However, by presenting my credit card information to Bethesda, I can obtain a steel sword and iron helmet from Skyrim via the Creation Club. I don't start with these items however, so the hardest part will be getting them. I am also going to get the Grognak outfit as well as some leather armor, as they seem rather fitting given the circumstance. With that out of the way, let's begin. As usual for the character, it's a Nerbit, and for my stats, it's max strength and endurance with the rest of the points on luck. The reason I'm going with luck is so that when I get out of the vault and make it back to Sanctuary, I can use the I'm Special book to put an extra point in luck and take the Idiot Savant perk. This is simply because it seems to be a lot faster than dumping points into intelligence to level up. Everything plays out as it normally would until I need to escape from the vault. For the first time in a Fallout 4 video, I need to get out of the vault without killing the rad roaches. For those of you wondering, you can't just grab the Pip-Boy while the roaches are after you, as it doesn't work. Thankfully though, it is easy enough to get past this little predicament. If any of you have ever watched someone else do a weapon restricted run of Fallout 4, such as Yamfa or Mitten Squad, then you will know that the rad roaches are not capable of opening doors. And as such, all you need to do is trap them on the other side of the doors and then crouch down somewhere and wait until you're registered as hidden from them. Once that's done, you can just grab the Pip-Boy and leave. I actually tried another method of trying to get the roaches to run into the electricity, as it seemed to kill a few of them, but in the end, it was doing more damage to me than them, and so I stopped before I became the first person ever to die in Vault 111. As soon as I got the Pip-Boy, the first thing I did was to make sure to unequip my vault suit, as it didn't seem like fitting a tire for a dragon slayer such as myself. Then, as mentioned before, I made my way back to my house in Sanctuary and used the I'm Special book before beginning the long walk to Hubris Comics to get my equipment and start this run proper. Beginning my journey, I made sure to mark various locations on the map such as Concord for convenience sake later, as well as it being the only easy way for me to earn experience for the time being. Seeing how, just like in the intro to Skyrim, my hands may as well be bound. This ended up not being the best idea, as I accidentally stumbled into Lexington, which is filled to the brim with ghouls, but probably more importantly, there's a raider in power armor overlooking most of the town with a fat man. I don't need to explain why that's a bad situation to find myself in. Luckily for me, I saw him, but he didn't see me. I also surprisingly was able to make it through the town with little to no difficulty. Almost as soon as I got out of the town, I found the Brotherhood's radio signal, so I made sure to tune in. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm siding with the Brotherhood again, and that's because I had a poll a while ago asking you all the hypothetical question of what faction you thought the Dragonborn would join if he'd ended up in the Commonwealth. The poll had over 10,000 votes, and the vast majority of you said he would side with the Brotherhood, so I will abide by your wishes.
I love democracy.
Upon further adventuring, I walked straight into a raider outpost of some sort and nearly got ripped to shreds by the turrets. I was able to escape unharmed, but one of them ran after me and managed to cripple me with his axe. But the fool did set off my trap card in the form of a rather conveniently placed bottle cap mine that happened to be next to these traders' corpses. I looted everything from their bodies to hopefully sell later and continued south. I even ended up unintentionally marking green tech genetics on the map, which will save some time later on when dealing with the courser. From here, it was just a short swim across the river and I was basically at Hubris Comics to collect my spoils. I had attempted to sneak my way through because at my current level, the ghouls here would have their way with me in seconds. Long story short, that plan failed and I had to sprint my way to the top of the building and prayed that they didn't nibble away at my shins on the way up the multiple flights of stairs. I did manage to hide in a bathroom and thought I could do the same trick as I did earlier with the roaches, but you see, that plan failed as the ferals used the power of opposable thumbs to open the door from the outside. They got a few hits in while I booked it past them to the top of the building. Not that that was going to save me, however, as I got scratched to death in record time almost the instant the game loaded me in. Second attempt, and I managed to get lucky as they simply missed me this time and I could hop down and read the note that would point me towards the rest of the quest. I should point out that the quest directed me to the top of the building to read this note, which then tells me that I need to get to the roof of the opposite building and that the guy who had the items I'm after levitated over. Well, seeing how I don't have multiple hours to waste getting a jetpack, I instead carefully make my way down to the street level, where I then get blown up by mines because I can't have nice things. Next attempt and I don't get blown up, and I sprint straight past some raiders and a turret, jump through this window and then quickly turn around and go through this door, all before they even realise what just happened. Once I make my way to the roof of this building, I get the throne room key, which can then be used back downstairs to open this door, and now I can finally get the gear I have been searching so long for. So, this is where things begin to take a bit of a turn. This sword is good. Like, it's absurdly good for this early in the game. It does 68 damage even before I have any perks. The helmet is also nothing to laugh at either, as it gives over 20 protection and increases my strength and endurance to boot. So, with the items in hand, I absolutely effortlessly slaughter all the nearby raiders as well as all the ghouls, including the glowing one, back inside Hubris Comics. But it gets better. It was at this point I realised that the sword had a unique ability and that each consecutive hit in the same target would do more and more damage. I know what you're thinking. That sounds pretty broken, and you would be right, it is. To get some sort of idea of just how much power I wield at my fingertips, I decided to go redecorate the museum in Concord with the entrails of the raiders that were giving Preston and company a hard time, so that I could try out the sword on the Deathclaw. I also attacked Preston for good measure. This isn't New Vegas, however, so he can't be killed, which is incredibly disappointing. As I expected though, the Deathclaw goes down very quickly to the consecutive attacks. My defenses are pretty normal for this early in the game, all things considered, so he could still do a good chunk of damage to me in return. To be fair, I did pop a few drugs before the fight, because what are drugs if not magic of the mind? Regardless, this pretty much confirms to me that the rest of this run is going to be rather simple, seeing how the sword is basically pay to win if we're going to be honest. Well, seeing how the last thing I would need right now is more levels, I figured I should begin focusing on the main quest. But before that, I wanted to go join the Brotherhood in Cambridge. On the way, I managed to capture this interaction with Wolfgang that I found far funnier than it actually was.
This doesn't involve you.
You stop waving that gun in my face, or it's gonna involve me.
That's it. You're dead.
Sure.
You crossed. That was nuts.
Cutting up the ghouls attacking Dance and his men was rather fun. So fun in fact that I ended up hitting Dance in the process and he murdered me for it. Next time around and I offer him friendship instead of the sword, at least for now, and we make our way to Arcjet to slaughter some synths to the point where they begin to transcend reality as we see it. Further on in, for once I don't melt him alive inside his armor and actually fight the synths outside with him. I actually assumed that this was a situation where they would continue to spawn until I activated the engine, but I guess not. From there, we just unplug the last few toasters, I hand Dance the deep range transmitter, and just like that I am now two different kinds of knight. Now it was time to focus on the actual story. Luckily for me, since I've already been to Hubris Comics, I can easily just walk down into Park Street Station and start the rescue mission for Nick. However, first I decided to go fight Swan. I mean, why not? I mean, it's such short work of the Deathclaw that this shouldn't be too much harder. History essentially repeats itself here, as just like before, he could easily two-shot me if I'm not careful, but I managed to come out on top with only a few broken bones. Inside the station, I go on a rampage as I shrug off bullets, all the while tearing the limbs off of anyone who gets within an arm's reach of me. I will say this really makes me hope that the next Elder Scrolls, whenever it releases, will have full body dismemberment like Fallout, because this is awesome. Inside the vault, and things become even more streamlined as now these zombies have nowhere to run, and as such, I'm able to set Nick free in minutes of opening the door. I did manage to level up while inside and took the second rank of the Bloody Mess perk, which I got to see the results of almost immediately. As for Skinny Malone, I hear you ask?
Come into my house, shoot up my guys? You have any idea how much this is gonna set me back?
I wouldn't be here if it weren't for your two-time...
Yeah, child's play. Well, now Nick is saved and I'm in downtown Boston with nothing to do, so rather than head back to Diamond City, I decided to just explore for a while. I ended up walking into Trinity Tower and briefly considered saving Strong, but after killing a few super mutants I figured that it would just be a waste of time and potential healing supplies. That said, I figured that since I'm in the area, there are some people that I should really pay a visit to.
What are we going to do?
Considering I was more than able to pistol whip all the railroad to death in a previous Fallout 4 video, it should probably come as no surprise that skewing them took no time at all. It was an awfully cathartic experience though, I'll give it that. I should mention that at some point I went and sharpened my steel sword and now it does bleed damage. Truth be told, I forgot that I did this until recording this part of the script. The railroad were now once more purged from the Commonwealth, but unlike before, this did not satiate my bloodlust. So, to fix this issue, I decided to decimate the next group of people that I ran across, which just so happened to be these missionaries. Insert funny Joshua Graham joke here. Now with the intent of heading to Diamond City, I ran into a super mutant who managed to prove tougher than the ones I fought before, as he was able to cripple both of my legs while I attempted a rocket jump. No clue how I survived the blast, but we take those? So I just kill him, heal up, and then make my way to the big door of Diamond City. Seeing how the mayor is here, and while he's distracted by the freedom of the press, I decide to level up my pickpocketing skill and steal the keys to Kellogg's house now rather than a few minutes from now. Before chasing down Kellogg, I actually take the time to stock up on stim packs, as I had used up most of them when dealing with the Triggerman. After that's done, I get the help of Nick's specialist, and I begin heading for Fort Hagen. On the way, I stop off to wipe out the bandits at the Federal Ration Stockpile Fort. Learning from before, I make sure to take the fusion core from the power armor before proceeding with the purification. The bandit leader was able to put up a bit more of a fight than the others, but it was nothing special, and at the end of the day, she was dead and I wasn't. With no more distractions, I arrived at Fort Hagen, and this time I made sure to grab a biometric scanner from one of the turrets for building the teleporter later. Just because I know if I leave it until then, I'll just not be able to find one. The synths inside the fort are easily the hardest enemy yet, not by much, but it's worth bringing up. I have very little energy defense, and as such, their laser weapons tear through me very quickly. If I hadn't went and stocked up on healing items, this would have been annoying. It wasn't just their weapons to be fair. I don't know if it's just me, but synths seem to block against melee attacks a lot more frequently than any other enemy types in my experience. Thankfully though, VATS is able to counter that, so I ended up using it a lot in here, which is important. Why is it important? Well, because it allowed me to fill out my crit meter, and as such, I was able to one-shot Kellogg mid-sentence. God damn, is this sword stupid broken. Well, with Kellogg unceremoniously butchered, I make my way up to the Purging where I look so incredibly out of place during Maxon's speech that it's not even funny. After getting acquainted with the Brotherhood leaders, I accept the mission to take out the mutants at Fort Strong. Usually, a lot more thought would be going into this, but I am fairly confident that at this point I can one-shot all but the toughest mutants. I'm not even really worried about the behemoth, given the fact of how easily I dealt with Swan earlier. Well, I immediately got humbled as the behemoth killed me upon arrival. Okay, good start. Next try, I make sure to be a little more cautious and deal with any of the normal super mutants before engaging the behemoth. I also use the patented Souls technique of just planting yourself as close to the enemy's legs as possible and just hacking away at their ankles until they die, which surprisingly, got me results. The actual inside of the fort itself was quick and bloody, just how I like it in combat encounters. Close quarters are a Nerbit's best friend after all. With the fort clear, I returned to Maxon and realised that this was as far as I could go for now in the Brotherhood questline, so it was off to Good Naper to Psychonauts 2 my way through Cornflakes' brain before heading to the Green Beyond. I decided to go full maniac on the Children of Adam, which may have been the dumbest mistake yet. It somehow completely slipped my mind that I have absolutely zero radiation resistance, and as a result, they mess me up bad. If it weren't for the few doses of Radaway I had, I probably would have had to load back and lose a lot of progress. It's good to know though when I do a Gamma Gun run that the weapon seems to be effective to some degree. Right before Virgil's cave I fought another Deathclaw. He went down easier than the first. But what I found more interesting is that I severed his tail before he died. I didn't know that was possible. We're getting straight up Monster Hunter in here now. After conversing with Virgil, it was time to hunt down the courser. And, like I mentioned before, I was lucky enough to already discover green tech genetics, so it was just as simple as fast traveling and then carving away through the gunners. They're understandably a bit more challenging than raiders, but they still don't come close to killing me at this point. The courser, all things considered, is just Kellogg with more health, so to that end, I tried to one-shot him with a crit. But, turns out, he had just enough to survive it. I also for some reason stood in place, slashing at nothing like an idiot, instead of running after him while he healed, so he took a few extra hits from there to take down. I then rescued the nearby runaway and then tiptoed over the still fresh corpses of the railroad to decode the chip before returning to Virgil to get the plans for the teleportation spell. Thankfully, I had the required materials, so it was as simple as building it, powering it, and entering the institute. Gotta say, not quite sure how Engram was working the computer while she ran around like this, but it's impressive. Even though I was tasked with getting Dr. Lee, I didn't want things to be the exact same as last time, so I instead killed Father and made a mad dash for the exit, stopping to kill any synths on the way of course. As you can imagine, Maxim was not best pleased with my efforts, but in my defense, do I look like someone who should be trusted with an infiltration mission? No. No, I do not. It's not really an issue at the end of the day though, as there is conveniently another person with the exact same skill set as Dr. Lee, who we can recruit called Professor Scala. This part is actually all new to me, so that's something I suppose. I'm told to look for her in Diamond City, but nothing is easy in an RPG, so of course when we arrive, she isn't here and we learn from her assistant that she's went off to General Atomics, for some reason. I'm sure she told me, but I've been skipping through the dialogue as fast as possible, so I'm really not quite sure what's going on here. The only enemy I encountered on the way there was this guy called Absalom, who was wearing a full suit of combat armor. Not sure who he is, but when I kill him, he comments that this has never happened before, which, I mean, yeah, most people don't die more than once. Idiot. Anyway, I make my way inside General Atomics and find the professor, and was all ready to do some sort of fetch quest as is usually the norm, but to my surprise, I just have to give her the item that Engram gave me, and she agrees to come along. Neat. With the professor on board, it's time to get the high-powered magnet. I just decided to go get the magnet from the same hospital as last time, filled with the mutants. And just like last time, I lure the explodey one over to the nearby blood bugs because stabbing a nuke will probably not end well for me. Well, inside the hospital, and I get nuked anyway because I forgot there was more than one of them. I could spend my time running around the inside of the building with him chasing me like before, but I don't want that kind of anxiety again. So instead, I sneak up as close as I can to him and then jump over the counter and VATS attack him and kill him before he gets a chance to pull out the bomb. It's always refreshing to find new ways to solve old problems in these runs. From here, I just grab the magnet with no issues. No point in me going over how effortlessly it is to deal with super mutants again. I get back, drop the magnet off, and it's time to head back into the glowing sea to get the nukes for Liberty Prime. I'm able to kill all the ghouls in a single hit each, but it does become aggravating when they stun me with their melee attacks, but I'll live. The Assaultron and Child of Adam in the room right before the nukes that gave me so much trouble in the gun bashing video also both go down to a heavy attack. I'm just lucky they don't immediately start as hostile, or I think that fight may have turned out differently. Next up is dealing with Dance. I do promise Scribe Healing that I will at least hear him out this time.
I'm not.
Which was a lie. While I begin to clean pieces of dents off of my sword, I get ready for my next task, which is the destruction of the railroad. Interestingly enough, since I killed Pam this time, I complete this quest as soon as I put the explosives on the door. I don't even have to bother going inside to take out the nameless railroad agents. One final mission before the assault on the Institute, and it's getting the beryllium agitator. As expected, we circle the building in the vertibird for a few minutes until the pilot takes the hint and just drops me off to do my hacking and whacking. The rooftop battle is a cakewalk as there aren't all that many synths. Inside the elevator though, and I just use Engram as a shield. Not much I can do here unless I suddenly learn how to throw my sword at them. The real threat is actually getting the agitator due to the radiation. Well, for me anyway, as I'm pretty much out of Radaway and Radex, as well as the fact I'm not allowed to wear the radiation suit because of arbitrary challenge reasons. I just about managed to survive getting bombarded with Raz, which, considering my radiation level at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if I ended up mutating to have the ability to shout. At this point, I'm not even really sure what to say when it comes to battles, as I quickly cut up the sentry bot, and with Engram's help I also get rid of the Assaultrons in seconds. I do very nearly get eye-beamed though, so that's something. Regardless, with them out of the way, it's just a straight shot to the exit, and from there I return to the Brotherhood and get Prime ready for the final push. And by that, I of course mean I fast travel to the CIT ruins and just join up with the Brotherhood. Not a lot to do but sit here and watch as they disintegrate everything as it spawns. Once Prime lobs his explosive chicken egg into the hole, we run in and begin the destruction. I pretty much just murder all the synths in the main area by myself, and then I get greeted by a glorious sight when going to open the way to the reactor. Not sure why he's floating, but it has been a while since I've seen a visual bug, so it's par for the course at this stage honestly. I decide to issue the evacuation order as the Dragonborn is probably a nice guy most of the time, and then head into the reactor and this time make sure to kill all the synths before setting the charges. I also take the kid with me because if there's one thing the Dovahkiin knows, it's that children are the real all-powerful unkillable beings. With that, I teleport out, push the big button, blowing up science, ending the game, and sorta beat Fallout 4 as the Dragonborn. Not really sure what to feel after this challenge, as the sword ended up being a lot more powerful than I thought. So it wasn't really a challenge per se, more so just a gimmick playthrough. This also means that unlike usual, there wouldn't be much point in doing an endgame boss-like fight like in the last two Fallout 4 videos. I do have another idea however. Yeah, I think that'll do. Regardless, that's going to be the end of this challenge video. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider giving the video a like, and if you're interested in more challenges in the future, feel free to subscribe as I try to have one of these videos out every week. My name's Nerbit, stay safe everyone, and I'll see you all in the next video.